The way we shape our work shapes the world around us. Some people settle for good enough. A few refuse to settle. And in doing so, they bend reality to match their vision. Today, we'll uncover the system behind one of history's most relentless creators. How he fused art and technology, demanded integrity in every detail, and built products that felt inevitable. This is Steve Jobs by Walter Isaacson, brought to you by Beyond the Books, where we break down great ideas into lessons you can live. Steve Jobs didn't just build products, he built worlds. To truly understand him, beyond the myth, beyond the black turtleneck and the iconic keynotes, we have to trace the operating system beneath his life. Not the code in the machines, the code in him. Jobs believed, almost obsessively, that technology and art were not separate. He saw them as two halves of the same heartbeat. Most people choose one. They either bury themselves in engineering or wander into the realm of pure creativity. Jobs refused to split his soul that way. He believed the magic lives where the two collide. Think about the original Macintosh. It wasn't the fastest computer. It wasn't the most practical. But it was beautiful, friendly, almost alive. That wasn't an accident. Jobs would walk into the design lab, look his team in the eyes, and make them feel that this wasn't just a machine. It was a statement of who they were. Most people make tools. A few make statements. And the rarest make tools that are statements. Here's what most people miss. Jobs wasn't chasing industry trends. He was chasing something harder. Perfection on his own terms. His team famously called it the Reality Distortion Field. An ability to bend perception, to convince himself and everyone around him that the impossible was only a step away. On the surface, it looked like arrogance. In practice, it often became a self-fulfilling prophecy. When Jobs said something could be done, his teams found a way to make it happen. But distortion alone is not vision. Without taste, discipline, execution, and a team capable of turning pressure into reality, it becomes fantasy. Jobs' power was not merely that he believed the impossible could happen. It was that he could force the details to serve that belief. Very few people get the world to meet them where they stand. Jobs simply refused to stand anywhere else. But here's the cost. The same intensity that made Jobs a visionary made him exhausting to work with. He could be merciless, brilliant in one moment, cruel in the next. He split the world into insanely great or totally worthless. No middle ground. This wasn't just temperament. It was part of his creation system. Jobs believed that excellence required pressure. He would push, provoke, and sometimes dismantle his own team emotionally. Because he believed that only under that kind of fire would something truly different emerge. Some leaders chase greatness by inspiring, others by demanding. Jobs did both. But the demand almost always came first. And this is where the lesson becomes dangerous if we misunderstand it. The point is not to copy his cruelty. The point is to study his clarity. Because some strengths become dangerous when they have no counterweight. Jobs' genius was real, but so was the damage it could cause. Consider the iPod. Before it existed, MP3 players were clunky, confusing, and joyless. They solved a problem, but they didn't delight anyone. Jobs didn't want a box that just stored music. He wanted a cultural object. Something that felt inevitable, as if it had always been waiting to exist. Here's the deeper insight. Jobs didn't just invent, he revealed. He stripped away everything awkward or unnecessary until the product no longer felt like a product. It felt like an extension of life. Here's the pattern. See the frustrations the world has quietly accepted. Imagine the perfect experience. Refuse compromise until reality bends toward that vision. Most people improve what exists. Jobs made what existed feel obsolete. What most never realize is this. Jobs' life mirrored his products. Minimalist, focused, relentless about what mattered, and merciless about what didn't. When he returned to Apple in 1997, the company was bloated with dozens of products. He walked into a meeting, drew a 2x2 grid, and said, Consumer, Pro, Desktop, Portable. 4 boxes. Everything else, gone. This was the system in action. Focus creates clarity. Clarity creates momentum. Momentum creates breakthroughs. Even his obsession with design details wasn't vanity. It was integrity. He famously demanded that the inside of the Macintosh be beautiful, even though no customer would ever see it. Why? Because he believed how you do one thing is how you do everything. Hidden sloppiness eventually leaks into the light. This is a truth most builders miss. They think customers only notice the visible, but products carry the aura of the care put into them. Quiet excellence leaves fingerprints, even in the unseen. But the hard truth is this. Jobs' intensity left scars. His perfectionism strained relationships. His refusal to compromise sometimes slowed progress. His binary worldview, brilliance or garbage, caused collateral damage. This is the paradox. The very traits that made Jobs legendary were deeply connected to the traits that made him, at times, unbearable. His standards created breakthroughs, but his lack of softness often created wounds. And that distinction matters, because greatness without humanity can still leave damage behind. The lesson is not to become impossible to work with. The lesson is to become impossible to distract from what matters. And yet, there's one more layer most people miss. Jobs didn't just want to make products. He wanted to make a dent in the universe. That wasn't just a line. Apple was an extension of him, a tool to reshape culture, to remind the world that humans are capable of astonishing beauty, when technology serves creativity instead of crushing it. This is why he obsessed over end-to-end control. Hardware, software, even the stores. He didn't want Apple to be a supplier. He wanted it to be an experience. Here's the system, integrated. See differently. Spot where the world has settled for good enough. Imagine perfection. Hold the vision of how it should feel. Distort reality. Demand more from the world, but anchor that demand in taste, discipline, and execution. Craft with integrity, every detail, visible or not, aligned with the whole. Deliver wonder. Create something that feels inevitable, like it was always meant to exist. Then, start the loop again. True vision isn't a single act. It's a cycle of refusing to settle over and over. But the final insight is this. Steve Jobs didn't just change technology. He changed our expectations of it. He showed that raw function is hollow, but function married to meaning and beauty can reshape culture. And in doing so, he left us with a challenge. Not to be Steve Jobs, not to copy his harshness, not to mistake pressure for purpose, but to find in our own work the intersection where focus, excellence, and meaning converge. To build something the world doesn't yet know it's waiting for. The dent in the universe is never made by accident. It's made by someone who refuses to stop until the world feels different. Excellence begins with one choice today. Look at something in your work or life that you've allowed to stay good enough. Ask yourself, what would the uncompromising version of this look like? Then take one step to close that gap. Right now. Comment with the one area of your work or life where good enough has been quietly costing you. Like this video. Subscribe to Beyond the Books. And if there's a book you want to truly understand, let us know in the comments. Beyond the Books, where ideas become the way you live.